Good evening. It is Wednesday, October the 5th, 8 o'clock p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson from Leading Edge Weather and Sail Flow, bringing you an initial forecast for the Alice Cup to Rockville to and from starting this Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then leaving back from Rockville at 10 o'clock a.m. Sunday morning. So we got a few things to talk about. It looked like a couple days ago, especially when we get 5, 6, almost nearly 7 days out, things tend to change, right? And so the timing of things gets a little off. But real quick, let me go down to the corner here just to kind of show you the splash page for Charleston Ocean Racing Association here with the page for the Alice Cup. Not too late to register if you'd like to give it a try and sign up for it. All the instructions and the SIs are here. And then also, if you want to see the latest forecast information, go to Skipper's Information, Offshore Wind and Weather. And this is where I've been posting these forecasts, and you can check them out here anytime until the next one comes out. Then it'll be bumped up in the line for this one. So, a couple things going on. Let's go over to the WPC surface map here. We talked about Monday night when I issued the preliminary, just sort of looking at this continental high pressure setting up over the Midwest. It looked like it was a little farther east, which means that northerly spill down would have started a little sooner. But we've got a double cold front as we get into Friday night. And then coming into Saturday morning, looks like that the secondary cold front hangs up along the coast with a little area of short wave low pressure embedded along that front. This has been sort of considered like persistent in the WPC surface map for the last 24 hours. So what this means for us is that the Saturday morning start may not be with those moderate to strong northerly winds filtering down the coast and especially the northeast flow. But it will be cascading over the Outer Banks, the Mid-Atlantic, the Outer Banks, and spilling down southeast North Carolina and slowly making its way here. This really is a timing thing for this front to get off the coastline to allow these northerlies to spill down. And I think a lot of times in cases where the models aren't showing it yet, sometimes this moderate to strong northerly flow really kind of forces its way through the surface. It undercuts what's going on, and we see an earlier arrival of that. So as we get into Sunday morning, we see the high stretching across towards the mid-Atlantic. It has dual centers at this point, and then we get more of an easterly gradient that ends up being maybe a little bit less than what we thought was originally going to be on Sunday. So I was thinking we were going to see low 20s. Now it looks like we might see mid to upper teens here with more of an east-northeast to east flow. So that should help at least some folks getting back up the coast a little earlier versus a straight headwind from the northeast. Looks like it might have a little bit more of an easterly element to it. And so that'll be a good thing. If we take a look at the GFS and we get into Saturday morning, this is 8 o'clock a.m., we can see the northerly starting, the gradient start to increase over the mid-Atlantic up near Tidewater down to northern Outer Banks and central Outer Banks. And we see that slowly coming down the coastline. We see the northerlies coming across Raleigh, across Charlotte, coming downstate at the border. This is by 2 o'clock p.m. Saturday. This is the GFS, remember now. We see it spilling down into the evening hours, and then overnight we see the winds starting to turn more northeast to east northeast, especially offshore. So this is where we get into Saturday night into Sunday, where things start to really pick up. And this gradient looks like it's going to last all the way through the day on Sunday, where we have this east northeast slowly shifting a little more east through the day. And so now we have to look at what the wind speeds are going to be. But Saturday is really tricky, especially with the GFS. The Euro being a little bit more aggressive by Saturday morning, showing this northerlies pushing all the way down to southeast North Carolina, the Grand Strand, and then eventually making their way here. But even the Euro has some hang up. You see some lighter gradients over our area as that front just sits with that embedded low pressure and just creates a little bit of a tweak in the isobars. So then the Euro definitely fills it in, just like the GFS as we get into overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. So this, again, those two models right there are already in a lot of agreement for this northerly or northeasterly wind to arrive later Saturday versus in the morning when we wake up. We take a look at the modeling. Sea surface temperatures in the Charleston area about 69 to 70 degrees. We've had a real big cool down over the last 13 days or so. But I'm just going to take Schutz's Folly as a point forecast just for the start for Saturday morning. And we look out to Saturday. Some of the models are bringing this east-northeast or northeast flow into the coast by as early as noon, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock p.m. So in my opinion, the way that I kind of see this is where models disagree. They're banking too much on the fact that this cold front and the low pressure will interfere and create more of like a light and variable type of wind field. Whereas I see surface high pressure in the Midwest really pushing those northerlies down a lot sooner. I think we probably start to see these effects by early afternoon, if not late morning, with the northerly winds make it here and then increase through the day. So I'll probably need another day or so and talk about this in the skippers meeting Friday night, just a little more time to exact the timing when these winds are going to arrive, because I don't think the models are seeing the timing of it when it's going to get here. And that's going to matter on the race course. So more to come on that. But as we get into Sunday, there's a lot of agreement with east northeast to east flow. Of course, the models usually get this wrong; they undercut it by a few knots. So even though it's showing 10 to 13 knots ish on Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon, I tend to think we'll probably end up in the 14 to 18 knot ranges. I always go a little bit above that or several knots above what the models show, because they don't really get that backdoor sea breeze effect that we see along our coastline, especially closer to the coast where we get those sea breeze oscillations, and the gradient tends to be a little bit stronger offshore anyways. So that's going to be my forecast for Sunday is 14 to 18. Saturday with the spill down may start northerly late morning to noon in the 10 to 14 knot range, and then maybe pick up 13 to 17 as it veers northeast through the afternoon. Again, higher than the speeds are depicted here on the modeling, but this is just a preliminary shoot at those wind speeds for Saturday, as the things tend to be tricky. Let's take a look real quick at the swell heights. So that's all I really have for winds at this point. And there'll be more to come at the skippers meeting. I'll have a much clearer picture. Look at the waves for the forecast. It looks like waves will be right around 2 feet all the way through Saturday morning at the race. Saturday night, as those northerly winds spill down and pick up, we're going to see a shift in the swell. It's going to become more of a wind chop. So where we have a somewhat long period swell today going into a short period 8 to 9 second swell on a Saturday morning, it sharply drops off as those winds really like bank into the coast, right? So that easterly swell becomes more east southeast or even southeast, and then it ends up being a shorter period. So it's going to get a little bit bumpy out there on Sunday for sure with that secondary and primary or tertiary wind direction coming in as we get into Saturday night and Sunday morning. And like I said, this could start earlier on Saturday where we see the waves actually come up just a little higher, maybe up to 3 feet at the most by late afternoon. But I think we're looking good on swells. Nothing too crazy out there with this system. Looking at the tropics, nothing to worry about at this point. There's probably an 8 p.m. update that I haven't seen, but this Invest 91L looks like it's going to stay off to the west, and number 12 or tropical depression 12 is going to head off to the west northwest. So nothing to worry about there. If we look at sea surface temperatures out at the buoy, we're at 72.46 along the shallower coastal shelf at CHR 60, and then well offshore over towards the Gulf Stream, it's a lot warmer at 78.44 degrees, but really right around 69, 70 degrees for our area. And the temperatures, if we look at temperatures for Saturday, look rather comfortable. We were going to be seeing 72, 73 degrees, but with that cold front lingering, it keeps that warm air, that warm humid air mass in place for just a little bit longer before we see the drop off in the Saturday night. So that's the air temperatures. And real quick, I want to bring over this. This is Expedition, and I just use this for the current. So I'm not really seeing much current activity for Saturday morning, and then even as we get into, if we go forward in time towards the race start, not really much current, right? So I'm not expecting very much unless it's going to be wind driven as we get into Sunday. We might see that current, maybe a small surface current start to form at about 1 knot over the top of whatever's existing out there right now for offshore. Inside the harbor, though, it might be a different story. We're going to be on a flood tide at the start. If we go back to Tempest 1 map, look at French Quarter for tides. And Saturday morning, low tide is high tide's at 7:17 a.m. at 6.24 feet, but we look at the overlay to just see what the latest is going to be, and we see that basically Saturday morning is going to be close to 7 feet, so 6.8, and then drop down low tide is going to be right around close to a foot, so 0.7, so about a 6 foot swing. So it'll be a flood tide, probably maxing out around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, right there during the peak ebb tide, and we'll go from there. But otherwise, I think that's about it. That's a wrap for the initial forecast for this one. It gets a little bit tricky on Saturday, like I said, but we'll iron it out as I come to the skippers meeting Friday night. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of guidance, something to go by. Pleasant weather, cool nights, warm days, cooler sea surface temperatures, so prepare for that and be ready for moderate basically moderate northeasterlies to spill down on Saturday and then increasing on Sunday towards possible strong, like the gusts might get up into the low to mid 20s at times. So be prepared for that. Otherwise, that's going to be a wrap for tonight. And thanks everybody for watching. I might come back on tomorrow night for a quick update just to see if anything's changed or anything drastic, just so you can get an idea of what gear to bring, what sails to bring. And then I'll see you guys Friday night at the Skipper's meeting. Till next time, everybody, take care. Thanks for watching.